What's up, everyone? Welcome to the High Passion Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel K., and we're here with another great guest, Brandon from Ganja Glam.
What's up, everybody?
Brandon is the founder of Ganja Glam, and he's here to tell us what they're all about and discuss some of the issues with cannabis tourism in Canada. Let's get into it. All right, man. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Finally getting this done. You know, we reached out and chatted on Instagram for a bit. Been checking out some of your past events that you've done, and just love what you guys are about. And I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, I appreciate it, Daniel. It's like we like to work with other people in the community. I think it's like easier, least path of resistance. So
yeah.
Appreciate your time having me on.
100%. Tell us a little bit about Ganja Glam, man.
Ganja Glam is like a cannabis lifestyle brand, right? It's we started with T-shirts and cannabis reviews, and we kind of put it from a legacy to legal kind of point of view, because we all had that experience, and we understand as well that maybe our reviews aren't exactly what other people will think, but we wanted to make sure that we articulated it in a way that other cannabis people would, or not even just cannabis enthusiasts, but people who are learning about the product would be able to get an idea of what to expect.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because a lot of people are reviewing based on, educated smokers already.
That's right.
Providing something that's going to appeal to the average person is huge.
That's right. And you want to do it in a language that everybody understands, right? We're not here to try to create some kind of new language. It's we speak the language that everybody's accustomed to, right? And we try to focus on, the unbiased part as far as like we buy the product, right? Yeah. Occasionally we do get samples for reviews. And if it's a good sample, it's something that we think it's worth reviewing or smoking, and definitely we'll post on our website. Yeah. But we always make that known as well, right? It's I think it's more now morphed into events, obviously, and kind of trying to educate the general consumer, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I always bring this up. I have a relative. He works at a factory, makes good money. He's in a very comfortable position, but he smokes a particular brand of pre-rolls.
Okay.
That I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to disparage anybody's hard work, but there's other stuff out there he'd probably enjoy more, right? And a lot of the trade shows and the Canna events that are going on now, they're more geared towards the bud tenders and the industry professionals, or they're done up in a trade show sense. So the average person, like my friends that are, maybe construction workers, factory workers, office workers, they're not going to cannabis trade shows.
Yeah.
But they'll go to a concert or an event.
Okay.
And if there's, if there's someone there that can maybe provide some education on a new product, and all within Health Canada guidelines, obviously. They have restrictions for sampling only, can't sell certified people, etc. So that's one of our conditions at our events. We always provide a wristband for those people so the brands can identify them.
Got you. So it makes you able to get around, whatever they set up. So people can actually consume and test the product that they're going to distribute at their dispensaries, ideally.
Yeah, and it's not something we created. This is an industry standard kind of technique where you basically identify CanSell members versus general admission people. And initially that worked at the trade shows, because some of these events at the Metro Toronto Convention Center, they would have a lot of people coming through the doors. But as we mature, as the cannabis market matures, a lot of people lost interest or moved on. So we're trying to bring a new outlet to that, right? Something more familiar. And plus, the whole club nightlife scene is kind of dead too. You hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
So by combining a little bit of both cultures, I think it gives the audience something to look forward to, right? Like you're creating an event with something to do versus just to go to a party, listen to a DJ, for instance, right?
Yeah. Well, and you're combining the two cultures, right? There's a huge upcoming in the in like the DJ scene and the event scene. I believe, especially in that. The drum and bass side I've seen in Toronto, but to connect that with the cannabis and then bring in the advertising for the brands and the community, it's a really big thing, and I appreciate that you guys are doing that for the people.
Well, thank you. And listen, I am glad you brought that up, the community. That's the one reason I'm here even talking to you, right? If the community wasn't so much around us supporting us, like some of the messages I get are truly heartwarming. Like it's crazy. Like I don't want to get into detail, but there's some days I wake up and I get a message on Instagram and it's somebody just emptying their stuff to me, and I'm like, wow, thank you very much, And I think the other part is that we have a big team. We have 5 people, and we're all active. We're all, we respond to other people. We try to comment to other people. We're active in other groups other than just our own team, So.
Yeah. Well, even like I don't know all your team, obviously. I want you to mention them in a second.
Absolutely.
But I've spoken to Science and Cannabis. I'm not sure what his actual name
Chino.
is. But
he goes by Chino, yeah.
There you go. And like, seems like good people, and he was just positive energy, all of his posts, and it's really good to see that, man.
Yeah, Chino really is the face of Ganja Glam.
Okay.
Like, he is more that type. Like, I'll give you a quick story. When we were younger in our 20s and we'd go raving, I was more the person who was, hey, where is that person? Hey, have you seen this person for the last 3 hours? Did that person do too much? That person looks like they did too much. Whereas he would be off on some journey. We'd find him up on stage with a bandana on and a cowboy hat. And then he'd be tripping the needle, and the MC would be like, yo, we love the enthusiasm. We got to get off the stage. You know what I mean? So he really fits that role, whereas I like my role being the creative, kind of building the brand behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then the rest of our teammate, we have Janelle, G Gets High. She's out in London. We have Twerpsy. She's out in Sudbury. And then we have my boy Aaron, Black Market Therapist. He's out in Cambridge. So Chino and Aaron I've known for, I want to say like 20 years or more.
That's good.
I just
really
met
good.
Janelle and Twerpsy. I want to say about this time last year, we reached out to them after kind of looking at their profiles online and seeing that they were super authentic people. And we kind of really liked the way that they carry themselves and the messages that they... So we reached out and they were like, yeah, sure, we'd be part of the team. And it's basically, you started doing reviews for us. And,
so that was my next question. So with you 5, you guys go out and purchase the product yourself or get it given as a tester, and then you're clear about that. What's your process from there to actually do the review?
Okay, so we have a Google form, and all the team members have access to it, and they can go and they can upload photos, and they can take basically answer all the questions there. I formatted the form so it's super simple, right? Like lot number, date, packaging, brand, all this different stuff, right?
Yeah.
Then I take that. They usually give me a 1 to 2 paragraph, like a review of like their kind of outlook on the product. Yeah, like, it could be ranged from anything from the high to the effects. So it could be basically, this is good for working, help me concentrate, sort of thing.
Yeah.
This was really good for sleeping, that kind of stuff, right? And then we take that and we use ChatGPT, and I have a super long prompt that it took me a long time to craft, and we still work on it. But basically, it takes all the information that we've given it, and it gives me a more concise, readable review. Yeah.
Wow, nice. So you guys are taking advantage of the multiple people's different concepts or ideas of the product, and then combining it through AI. And using that to come out with a concise review.
Yeah, and every reviewer gets to choose whatever they want to review. And the only time we ever really have to coordinate on a review is if there's like, maybe I can't understand a certain, or maybe there was a box check that I'm like, that doesn't make sense. This stuff looks like gas, but this box was checked. So I'll reach out and I'll say, hey, did you mean to do this? And they'll be like, oh, yes, I did, and here's the reason why. Or no, I didn't, and please correct that for me. Yeah, so...
and then in that case, if it is, conflicting, do you go back in and kind of get somebody to re-review that?
No, basically we just change it on the fly over a text message or an Instagram DM or something, right? Just kind of a screenshot I'll send or something, right? And yeah, it's usually resolved really quickly. We've never, that's the good thing about my team. They're so knowledgeable. It's more or less just, can you explain what you meant by this versus, tailoring their reviews.
Yeah, 100%. No, that makes sense, because it's obviously confusion can happen when you're trying to describe something in depth like that, especially with cannabis that has so many depths to it, man.
And having different points of view from like not only like males but females, and maybe someone who works a hard day, long hours, versus someone like myself who works from home, versus someone who's a parent, versus someone who maybe all kinds of different scenarios. I think that's what also adds to the reviews, right? Yeah,
and everyone's going to want something different, and it's like I said, it's awesome that you guys are narrowing it down and making it more accessible for people to understand that.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
So right now I'm going to just roll something up. I've got some of the creamy runts I showed you. I give you a little bag there. I'm going to shout out my buddy East End Buds here. He hooked us up at the last market there. We're going to smoke some of that as well. I know you were saying earlier bottle tokes are your thing. So however you want to get into it, let's get into it.
Well, I'm
man.
still admiring the weed you got here. Like, for me, it's the difference in the legal weed right now is the cure. Right?
Yeah.
That's what's separating the good from the great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've always said as a grower, your cure and your storage can take your product from AAA to quads. It really makes a huge difference. And then again, like we have issues on the back end of now it's going to the dispensary. Does that dispensary have proper storage? Where's that product been sitting before it's actually going to the consumer? And then they're getting a product that isn't necessarily what the company sent out.
Well, perfect example, this same company that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I bought some of their stuff from a local dispensary and I didn't realize it was packaged a year before.
Yeah.
The cure was perfect. The weed was still gas. It wasn't powdered dusty, right?
Yeah.
Like it still crumbled and still had some kind of moisture content, oil inside of it. Right?
Yeah. A year later, that's pretty good,
Exactly.
But on that note, everybody, check your packaging dates, your package by dates when you're buying your cannabis. It's a huge thing.
That's what it's there for.
The fresher your cannabis, in my opinion, the better. I'm always smoking my own because it's the freshest that I have access to. So definitely pay attention to that, and it's really good to point out.
Yeah, and just even the fact that like you learn the characteristics of like you grow this plant for the way it makes you feel, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way people are consuming cannabis. It's like, yo, I'm going to go buy this because I like the way it makes me feel, right? So when you go to the dispensary the next time and maybe it's not there, we need more education on comparables, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
What is similar to this, right? Now there's certain strains that there's multiple versions of them. And then you're kind of basically playing who's got the best one, right? And sometimes you're lucky and they're very similar, but sometimes they're completely opposite.
Yeah. The
Questionable.
cannabinoids and the terp profiles can be completely different based on the grower, the lights they're using, the nutrients they're using, everything, man.
That's right. And a lot of people want they want knowledge, but they don't have the time to sit at a dispensary for half an hour and have a chat. And I think a lot of bud tenders on Reddit even, whether they are super knowledgeable and they love to talk to the consumers, or they're more inclined to have a reserved approach because maybe they've been attacked before or something like that. I think it's not the industry's it's not their responsibility to carry the industry on their shoulders and educate everybody.
Yeah.
They are there to help when they can, but we need more outlets. And that's, again, back to the tourism. Cannabis tourism has been around a lot longer before the legalization. You go look back to the Global Marijuana March, late 90s, the Toronto Freedom Festival, right? That was my initial introduction into this kind of culture, cannabis culture, right?
Great festivals, great times.
100%.
Sorry, talk a little bit about what cannabis tourism is. Not everyone's going to know, how to put that together.
Well, I think there's a bunch of different explanations for it. Like it could be touring a facility, learning more about how the plant's grown. It could be doing samples like they do at wineries or at breweries, right?
Yeah.
And in Jamaica, for instance, cannabis tourism is going out to the fields, right? And
getting to see it,
literally walking through the weed, being
I
able
haven't
to
got
touch
to
it
do
and
that
everything,
yet.
right? Here we have regulations that restrict that, but we do have some facilities I've seen where they have curtains, that are actually curtains that roll up, and there's windows that you can allow an audience to look inside without actually having to open the doors.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so it's evolving, and they're thinking more of that. And I think the one thing everybody's waiting for is obviously the U.S. to legalize.
For sure. That's I honestly, my opinion on that is it's going to take longer than everybody wants. They've got a lot more to worry about right now than cannabis, but I obviously hope that they do, because it will make things easier for social media, for marketing, for international deals, for banking, for everything,
Businesses should be able to put money in the bank, earn interest, make investments, pay other people like everyone else, pay their bills like everyone else. So, and
that's a big problem in the Canadian cannabis industry.
They're making it work because they have to, right? And I often wonder why we can't just, we're our own country. Why can't we just? But it goes back to we belong to a bigger organization. So,
Yeah, it's super deep.
yeah, and the whole thing, even with legalizing weed in the States, I don't think it's a matter of we got bigger problems. I think it's there's too many people in jail.
Fair,
And
fair.
It's a money making.
It's a business.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you legalize weed, you're gonna make more money for other people. But those people that were making money putting people in jail, visible minorities, right? Those people aren't gonna be making their money anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's got to be a big part in it, So, but let's talk about some of the events you've thrown already. I know we were talking about previously the Lake and Bake event that you threw. What was that about?
Well, we used to do. I was part of a team that did a house music boat cruise called the Hot Boat Cruise.
Okay.
And that was, I think, 15 years that we did that for. And at one point, the boat owner wanted to move away from dance music because there was a lot of fentanyl and just there was a lot of accidents happening. So
yep.
That was 2022 was our last one. It was August 2022, and we sold out. We had a packed boat, such great energy. And then 2023, nothing. And then 2024, early on, my cousin, he was in a magazine. He had an article in a magazine, and one of the questions is, how did he get into music? And he started talking about me doing parties early on. So that kind of sparked an interest. And I was like, why don't we revisit that part of my life again, right?
Yeah.
And I reached out to some friends, and I said, hey, what do you think about this idea? And then me and Chino, we were talking, and he actually came up with the name Lake and Bake. And as soon as he did, I was like, boom, dude, that's the magic one right there.
It's a great name.
So then we started working with the High Flyer. They had reached out about our reviews and gave us some props for our reviews. And so we brought them in on board, and we said, this is kind of what we're thinking of doing. What do you think? And they thought it was a great idea. And basically, it evolved from there. So we ended up having a meeting with Kuhn from Strains, because he had a boat cruise the year before, and one of my investors, they're really close. So
okay.
he set up the meeting. I had known Kuhn, but I had spoken to him for years and years. So I explained the whole thing to him. I said, this is what we're kind of thinking of doing. And he said, yeah, you know what? I'm on board. I think it's a great idea, and I'll support it. So being able to put Strains on our sponsor list, that gave us a lot of credibility going forward. And then
got you.
Dominic from X, he was like a big fan early on too. And he's like, yo, I love the reviews. Count us in. And then Retro Haze, they were next to come on board, and then it just started to trickle after that, right?
So a lot of it was actually people that you already had contact with, or people were reaching out because Strains came on board?
A little bit of both, actually. So Kuhn introduced me to another gentleman from Montrose, a guy named Nick, and he actually had a bunch of connections to brands. So he was able to, he brought in a lot of money, and he was like, one of the reasons we had so many brands, but we did have access to people too, right? It's just he broadened that reach, and then basically once we got to, I would say a month out, like late July, more brands were reaching out because I think that's just how they operate. It's
you started to get more exposure too.
That too, but you grow weed for 5 months. You're paying salaries, you're paying rent, you're paying overhead, all this stuff. Then you got to spot the OCS for 60 days. Money's tight for some of these companies, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the reason why some of them will make last-minute decisions on events like these, whereas other companies, their main focus is marketing more than anything else. Right?
Fair. And obviously the companies that have a larger marketing budget are able to do that easier. Makes sense. So you set up the boat cruise. You had everyone out, had all the brands there. What'd you guys get up to?
Well, we started with a tailgate. So, you think of like football, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was the same sort of thing. Set up a tent, and we had a bunch of brands come in, and they did like live sampling for, again, we had bud tender bracelets, wristbands, and we had general admission wristbands. So
nice.
The brands were giving out samples, and that was about a 3-hour period of the event because we had crazy weather. Literally, there was floods in Brampton or Burlington, I think it was actually, and Mississauga had a bunch of problems. But we missed it. There was we had a minute of rain when we were on the water.
Yeah.
And then it was sun the whole time. And the rain actually helped because it brought a lot of people who were standing on the outside of the boat in. and it kind of filled it up a little bit more. But
Pack the place up.
yeah, we had a lot of people show up. Surprisingly, like we had big numbers, and even with the big numbers that we had, surprisingly, there was a lot of people that didn't show up just because of weather, I imagine, and they had free tickets.
Yeah,
And-
fair enough.
And that's it. That's just
Free
expected,
tickets will
right?
do that.
Yes.
So you guys did the tailgate and then just moved as a group onto the boat, partied up, music.
Yeah, we had some lanyards for VIP members and staff and stuff like that, so they could bypass the line and get in real quick. But then there was a lineup, and eventually everyone got sorted on, and we were on the boat, and it was a great time. It was basically a free for all. They were very accommodating, and we had 2 levels. So the bottom level was set up for the brands to have their booths or whatever, and we had some food for sale down there. I think to do it next year, we won't have the food set up the way it was, but we'll still offer food through the bar.
Got you.
So, you'll be able to get stuff like hamburgers, and rather than a whole setup of buffet style.
Yeah. But you learn that by doing these events, right? You got to do it multiple years to fine tune it and get it to exactly what you want. And even then, you're still going to change things and upgrade and do all these other things. So,
and we got a lot of good feedback from people who really cared. Like, you can focus on all the the haters or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was legitimately good people that reached out and said, hey, there's some feedback on the event, and I was super appreciative of that. Like, for people to take time out of their day to share some information on how we can improve.
Yeah.
You'll never hear me complaining about that.
Dude, that's what we all want as creators, as business owners. Like, people don't like doing it, but it is really what we want. It's the only way we can make changes is if we know what's going on.
Yeah, until you get to the point where you're like so massive that you literally can't communicate with your whole audience anymore, right? But at that point, you're hopefully set up in a position where you've understood what the role of your business is, right? And your target market and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. That's dope, man. That's dope. So how did you get into like throwing events?
Just from the rave days. I was one of those rave kids, man. So I'm 46. I'm going to be 46 in December. And so in my 20s, we were raving, doing very questionable things in very questionable places at very questionable hours, man. And there was no parental control over it, right?
But that would have been in the days of, raves really being raves when you were in abandoned warehouses and stuff like that.
Well, even it got to the point late 90s, early 2000s where the rave scene was in clubs.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
The audience was drinking a lot of alcohol. Like the bars.
That's what it is now, I find.
Yeah, and it's because the audience has matured. Like I'm old, right? And people my age that were into raving, they have kids now, and those kids are 20, 22, 18, and I think they're the ones that are bringing back. Because if you go on Instagram or TikTok, you see like Valley Girls and these crazy people that you never thought would be drum and bass fans or jungle fans, and they're spinning the music, right? And so
that's awesome.
It just evolved from that. We started with a company called Shady Street because we had a jam hall on a place called Shade Street.
Okay.
And we ended up working with a gentleman named Orrin Bristol, who was from Inc. Entertainment. So he gave us access to a bunch of people, and we had a massive bar in Cambridge. It was called Velvet Lounge, and it was a strip bar during the day, but on the weekends we could throw events in there, and it was 2 levels with the third level. It was actually another bar, and it had a retractable roof, so if it rained, it was just a glass roof that went over top.
Fire.
But yeah, we ended up booking some big DJs, Breakage, D-Bridge, Clute. Then we were even doing hip-hop shows with like Obi Trice, D12,
Wow.
Jim Jones.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Big names.
And even my partner, he's itching for that stuff for a while. He's done the Fresh Reggae Fest, and he had Shensia and Spice. So there's a lot of experience in our team for bringing big. So with the Skank and Bass, our new party, we've partnered with Mr. Brown from Prophecy and Destiny, right? Destiny is a Live Nation.
Sorry.
property.
Just pull that back for a second. Sure. Skank and Bass. It's the first time you mentioned it on the pod. So let's tell the people what that is. Coming
Here
soon.
I am, getting too comfortable. Skank and Bass is our next party. It's November 30th, Saturday, November 30th.
Fire. I will be there. Show up.
Yes. I'm getting a vibe. A lot of people are going to be there. Tickets are moving, and getting lots of messages from people about, is there still early birds left? So we might actually add another 100 early birds.
Nice.
Just because there's so much interest in it. And we're a business, so obviously we need to make money, but if we can save somebody $10,
yeah,
and that means that they can come, 100%, right?
Yeah.
So, basically this event is right downtown Toronto, and I think we're the first people in this kind of cannabis space to use this event. So
nice. This location?
Yeah,
Fire.
Massive 5,000 square foot. It's not massive 5,000 square foot, but a 5,000 square foot, and then it has a massive sound system. What I meant to say,
nice,
with lighting and stuff. So
sorry,
we're expecting, a very, like if you've never experienced a rave before, it's going to be loud.
Yeah,
there's going to be lots of lights flashing. We're going to have visuals up on with projectors, right? We're going to have Mario Kart racing there.
Yeah.
We have a blindfolded joint rolling competition that Chino's hosting.
Yeah, I saw that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so imagine you're blindfolded. You're not going to tray a tray like this and a grinder, and one of our sponsors will provide the herb, and you're going to have 2 minutes to basically. I don't think you have to grind it. I think we're going to go for pre-grinded weed already.
I mean, that's helpful.
Yeah, so basically, you'll have a couple characteristics that you're going to be looking for, like how well you rolled it. Did you put a filter in it? Does it burn? And he's going to judge the winner. So the winner is going to get, I think it's $250 prize.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fire, bro.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd win that, but.
Listen, I don't think I'd win it either. I love rolling joints. So
I need to see.
Yeah.
I also put my filters in after.
100%. Yes. I'm not one of the ones that drop it in first either.
I couldn't do that blindfolded. Not a chance.
So yeah, we add that in there. We have a Sublimator Warrior coming, and they have the Sublimator bar.
Shout out Sublimator.
Yeah, listen.
Good guy.
I've never met him, but Chino has, and everybody I talked to says good things. So
yeah.
I was super excited when they reached out, and I was like 100% watch on board. So that's going to be for our silver sponsors. They'll be able to participate with this Sublimator bar, whereas our gold sponsor, which we're only limiting to 5 spaces this time because we want to allow the gold sponsors to kind of shine.
Yeah, to have that step up.
Exactly.
Make it worth it.
And I think by limiting it to 5 in this type of venue, this type of sitting, that gives them that value, and it allows them to do whatever they want to do, right?
Yeah.
If they want to bring a Sublimator, go ahead, right? So we're going to do
It's gonna be sick.
LED bars and an LED theme. So it's basically a Rainbow Road Mario Kart sort of. I don't know if you want to cut that out so Nintendo doesn't sue us or whatever, but. Basically, that's the vibes there, right? I think everybody is familiar with Mario Kart at some point in their life. And
yeah.
It's one of those games where you don't have to be a professional gamer to get in and have fun.
It's just a good time, man.
Exactly.
And that's what this event's going to be. It's going to be a vibe. So at Skanking Base, you're going to have a consumption lounge set up?
Yeah, we're going to have a consumption space dedicated for people who want to consume at the event, yeah.
Nice. It's going to be a vibe.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
I think that's the important part about the... there's a thing people refer to as the trick-or-treat events, right? And I don't want to get into that whole thingy, but I think when you're sampling with other people, it's a nice experience versus sampling by yourself.
I completely agree. As you were saying before, the community is really what you guys are about. So it's combining that into your event is a great idea.
Yeah, we often get that question. Can my boyfriend come if he doesn't have a cancel? Or can my friend come if they don't have a cancel? 100%, yeah. Our events, and most of these events, it's not just ours, most of these events, unless they specifically say must have a cancel or proof of employment, right?
Yeah.
Our event is open for everybody. I think if you're a cannabis consumer and you don't have a cancel, I think there's still value for you to come to these events and to learn about the products, right? Like you're a consumer and there's people there representing the brands.
Yeah. It's a great idea. Great idea. And I love that you guys are doing it. Can't wait for the event. With consumption and all of that, what is your, obviously you're smoking some bots right now. What's your connection to cannabis? Where did that start for you?
Well, it smoked, I think the first time I ever smoked, I think it was hash. Yeah, it was like the summer before grade 9. And
okay.
it was garbage. I think everybody has a similar situation where you don't get high your first time.
Yeah, it seems to either be that or it's one or the other. You either get stoned like crazy or a lot of people don't get high the first time.
Exactly. So One night, I think we're in high school at this point, grade 9. A friend of mine, his dad was a weed smoker, and
Yeah.
he had the gas. Like when you're in grade 9 and an old man gives you weed, that's where your life changes, right? And I remember going to go back to the basement where we were sleeping, and the stairs were like, just kept on getting taller. Then I found more medical value in it.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I was pretty like high strung. Like I was diagnosed with ADHD, they called it back then, right?
Yep.
So my mom at that point was like, the doctor was like, should we give him Ritalin or something like that? And I don't know what the issue was with Ritalin back then. I haven't really looked into it, but there was some negative connotations around it. So
Yeah. There still are.
there still are. Okay, so fine. So she decided not to. And what she did was she basically put me in the YMCA. So I was at the Y constantly. I was constantly getting active, right? So
Got you.
you get to a certain point where you're too cool to do what your mom tells you to do anymore, right? And that's where I started
Absolutely.
to struggle. And that was like early in high school. So I failed grade 10 in English twice. And I was in grade 12 now, taking grade 10 in English the third time. But I had a job now and I could afford to have a little weed every once in a while. And I noticed that my problem with English was that I just couldn't retain the information. Like I could read, no problem. But having that information stay in my head and then go and take it to a test.
And sadly, that's the way our school system is.
Exactly. So that's how I was judged, right? And everyone's like, you're such a smart kid, all this baloney, right? But then the weed, that was a game changer, right?
Yeah.
Could read.
Helped you level out.
Exactly. So that gave me the confidence to actually go to college, right?
Wow.
So now I was gonna have a career now, right? So going into college, like not even to brag, but just the grades were, I went from being like a C and D kid in high school to like almost a 4.0 GPA.
Oh, wow.
That was the difference, right? So, and obviously when you go to college, you're specializing in something hopefully you're specializing in something you want to do.
I was
right?
just going to say, hopefully.
Yeah, and you're learning something that you're excited to learn about, right? So,
You're actually interested in,
That's
you know?
right.
So
Right.
you're actually going to dedicate way more time. But it's cool to hear that, you found the cannabis to be something that helped level you out. Myself is a very similar experience. I actually was put on Vyvanse, which is similar to Ritalin, when I was in high school. And, it helped me when I was doing tests and stuff, but it made me really not feel like myself otherwise. And when I got out of high school, I switched to just smoking more cannabis. I was always smoking cannabis before, but not as much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worked,
I think
can't say it will work for everybody, but it worked for me, man.
Yeah, some people, like some of my friends in high school, they didn't like weed. They didn't like the way it made them feel, right? It was complete opposite. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think now with the fact that the OCS and there's so much access to weed, whether legacy or legal, I think more people are going back and experimenting and finding maybe there's a different format for them, right? Maybe it's an oral spray, or I'm getting tagged by my sister on some gum that's blowing up in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's not the next big thing, right? So just being able to have choice, and if you want to try it again, I think that's awesome, right? And if it's not for you, it's fine, you know what I mean? But I really found value in it, and then even still now. Going back a little bit, I want to say in my 20s, I had even more reassurance to this because I want to say a family member, I caught them smoking weed at our cottage, a family cottage. And they were horrified. They're like, oh my God, don't you tell anybody this and that. I have a career and blah, blah, blah. And they started going into a whole thing explaining why they smoke it. And I never even said it. And basically, there's like Ritalin was the thing too. This is a grown man who has to do client meetings, and the doctor prescribed him Ritalin. And he found that to change himself and affect the way he sells. So he went to weed. And then I get married in Jamaica in 2015. Everybody in my family smoking some kind of, even I'm walking out of the bus and my cousin's buying weed from the bus driver. I go inside, my uncle's got already a bag of weed at the bottom of the airport. Everybody's got weed. So my family even just kind of totally, before even legalization, right?
Yeah,
so,
you were just like, oh, it's cool.
I don't want to think, I want to say that I think that I, because there was a lot of negative connotation towards me as far as like burnout, druggy, this, that, and the other, right? But
Yeah.
I had a job, I had a career, I made money, I did this, I did that. I functioned normally.
Yeah.
And other people started to take notice of that, I think, right? And say, well, it can't be that bad if this guy's able to do all this shit, right?
100%, man. And honestly, like, that's one of the big reasons that we started this podcast, right? We want to fight the stigma around lazy stoners, you know, burnouts, like that whole negative connotation around cannabis is what our goal of fighting is. We're trying to make people see that, you know, we can be stoned and get shit done.
I'm glad you brought it up because, I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't mention it at this point, but that's 100% part of our thingy too, is the stigma, right? I think when you go to any concert, bar, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Even before legalization, weed was always around, right?
Yeah.
So this sense that we can't have weed in bars or that weed and alcohol can't be associated together is craziness, right? So
Absolutely.
That's another thing. Like I know,
Absolutely.
I don't go out often, but when I do go out and I go to the smoking area, nobody's really smoking cigarettes. I would guess maybe 10% of the people. Everyone else is vaping or smoking weed.
Yeah.
So Alberta as well, they've already changed the law. So if you're a dispensary owner, you can bring your license to an event and sell at the event, right? I think Ontario, we're the kind of province that would benefit from that, right?
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
your goal is to, take away from the legacy market, essentially is what they want. They want more market share, right?
Which is understandable.
Yeah, your business, okay, fine. Accessibility should be your focus, not insulting people's, like, oh, you're smoking toxins, this and that. Okay, fine. We can get into the nitty gritty about testing legacy versus legal, but I don't think that's the right approach as far as insulting your potential customers. More like talk about accessibility, talk about how you're making it easier for people to get weed, how you're doing things to curb the THC inflation, how you're doing things to educate consumers about terpene profiles and the various different strains and why one strain is different than the other, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And just being, transparent, and the more they educate their consumers, it shows that they care, and I think that's valued a lot by consumers. So
100%.
It's huge to bring that out.
Yeah, and start putting more weed pictures in your advertising maybe too. Like, again, these are things that have to change because of regulations, but it's how you market your product, right? Like, there has to be some kind of threshold where, you can open it up a little bit.
I completely agree. There's a lot that needs to change in that aspect. You want to be able to look at the product that you're purchasing. You want to be able to see these things. Even as a consumer, you would love to be able to go to an event and sample products. Like, there's a lot that I think should happen. I don't know what will.
Well, listen, you grow weed, right? So if you're in Niagara Falls and you're a lettuce farmer or something and you buy 1,000 lettuce seeds, you know that those heads of lettuce, there's going to be maybe a 1% variation. But as a weed grower, a cannabis grower, you know that if you have 1,000 seeds, there's going to be 1,000,000 variations.
Yeah, if you're talking regular seeds, it's a whole...
That's why pheno hunting is so important. That's why these generational growers, these legacy growers, that's why the amnesty of genetics into the legal market is such a big thing, right?
Yes,
like I talk about strains already, but they're a legacy to legal, and a lot of the strains that they have came from the legacy market, right?
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, most of the good strains on the market are coming from the legacy market.
That's right.
And it's actually a good thing that they actually put that in, and we're allowing people to do that.
I think the smartest companies have aligned themselves with legacy growers or legacy breeders to a certain extent because it's easier for R&D. It's certain companies can afford to pheno hunt, but I think most companies are focused on growing. Yeah. Right. So
pheno hunting is expensive.
Yeah, and that's what the legacy growers do the best, in my opinion, right? Is finding those rare characteristics and then breeding them together to create, like something what you have new here, the runts or whatever, right?
Something new.
It's not impossible in the legal market, but again, it's not everybody can afford that. I mean, tissue culturing, okay, that's awesome. I'm glad we have that, and that's an option for many people. But
it's cool. It's a really cool process.
You still have to pheno hunt in order to have those tissues to culture.
Yeah, exactly. So Uh, that's funny. You literally, you need to get it first.
That's right.
Chicken before the egg, right? So with cannabis, what's your consumption like now?
I smoke quite a bit. I think it's more because I'm working from home
Yeah,
and I can just smoke whenever I want.
fair enough.
So yeah, and I try to compensate with exercise and stuff. Like I'm not sitting here just at home smoking all day long or whatever, but I kind of it's a luxury that I have. Right?
Yeah.
And most of my meetings, especially nowadays, are with other cannabis people. So it is often that people are smoking
As
on the
well.
other side.
Yeah.
So
as is happening now.
yeah, so that's actually one of the danger parts, right? You don't want to get to the point where you're just smoking all day long and through meeting after meeting after meeting. So I try to balance that out with going for walks or, maybe just rip downtown or something like that. And yeah, with the promotion of the events, there's always something to do. So
Yeah. Do you find like changing up your strains and stuff like that helps with balancing that out?
I'm the complete opposite. I'm find something that works for me and I beat the hell out of it until it's gone. And then when it's not available, I struggle to find something else. So right now, I have an indica and a sativa hash, and I find that they're both versatile in the sense that I could smoke them all times of the day. I can
Yeah.
smoke the indica first thing in the morning
Interesting.
or at nighttime. The effects from those really help balance me out as far as like some strains, even weed. I'll smoke a joint and I'll be sitting there with the Instagram open with 10 messages to people, 3 emails half written. I got 50 browser windows open, right? Nothing's getting finished. But this stuff, I smoke this and I'm very focused. I'm able to get things done, move on to the next task, check things off, da. So I tend to stick with the same thing if I find something.
If you find something that works. Yeah.
So hopefully I don't like this. I'm going to have to call you all the time.
But that's what you were saying earlier. But I think it was off camera. We were talking about it briefly about how we need to make it easier to recommend like similar products and stuff like that to the consumers.
Yeah, so you go somewhere and they're out of your favorite thing. Well, how do you know what the next best thing is, right? There's not a lot of information. And again, we can't expect the bud tenders to carry this burden, right?
Yeah.
Like they're bombarded by sales reps constantly with new products and even just new people coming into the market. And I don't expect, I wouldn't be able to, remember all this information.
Yeah.
So some of them are really good at that. Whereas others, it's more or less, it's an experience thing, right? I've smoked this, I like this, but it might not be for you sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I think if you educate the consumer, they just make the decisions for themselves. I use this example all the time. I don't drink often, but I do drink. I'm Portuguese. It's part of my heritage, Christmas, whatever. So if we're having a special occasion and I go to the liquor store, I'm not going there to the rep and asking what to buy, right? I'm asking where it is because I already have a clear vision of what I want.
Yeah.
Right? I'm educated enough to go there,
And
beer
pick-
store, whatever, and pick what I want, right? Wine store. Maybe at the wine store, you have a little more selection. There's a little more nuance to your selection.
For sure, especially if you're getting into the higher end.
Exactly, right? And I think that is where the bud tenders can play a key role.
Completely
Right?
agree. Almost get to the sommelier level.
Yeah, the consumers have X amount of knowledge, but then they need a little, okay, well, I like this, but it's not available. Okay, we'll recommend this. It's very similar, right? And it's easy if it's the same strain, right? You maybe have Island Pink Kush from one company and Island Pink Kush from another company. But then again, it's like, are they similar or
Yeah.
are they completely different? Right?
Which they can be, where there are the issues of different growers, different batches, as well as renaming in the industry.
I'm glad you said that. Renaming is such a stupid thing. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to rename something and you're going to put the lineage on the back so people know what it is, that's fine because you want to stand out. But just to rename something to sell it as something else,
Yeah.
that is bullshit.
I completely agree.
Like, I don't want a breath. I don't want a breath. And then you selling me like a haze. You know what I mean? I don't want a kush and then you're selling me a breath.
Yeah. It
Right?
makes
Or a cake or something, right?
Yeah.
I want a kush. So, and I think that's where the consumers are going to start to get more knowledgeable is what they like. Okay, well, what do I like? What is this? Okay, now I know what this is. Now I can go and look for this somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why transparency with what the lineage actually is a huge thing that can make a brand shine through, because You know, even if they do rename it, like you said, at least I can see what this actually is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they've mentioned too about putting windows, the option to have windows in packaging, right? So you'll be able to actually visually inspect. And I think that's another key component. A lot of the marketing material, you got to go through the GS1 portal, the GTIN, right? Essentially the little barcode, and there's a specific requirements to uploading your photos, right? They have to have certain angles, this and that, and certain formatting, but
and that's to upload photos to what?
Basically it puts it into a big database where when someone scans the barcode, it'll show a picture of that into the POS, the point of sale system or whatever, right? Or the OCS can call up the images to put on their website or something, right? So it's not hugely expensive, but it is time consuming. And if you're someone that's like growing the same strain over and over, and there's any kind of, I guess my biggest problem, here's the marketing. It's like, beautiful, amazing looking bud. But when you open up, it's like brown. There's no crystal on it anymore. And it's like machine trimmed, right? So there's a huge discrepancy on what the marketing is showing versus what there's not enough updating, whether that's an OCS issue, whether or not the process is too cumbersome or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but the companies are not updating their photos enough, right? So I think that's another reason why our reviews are doing so well as far as our Google Analytics, where a lot of our reviews are top 5 clicks. Wow. Yeah. So and I think that's because we put such detailed photos, and the photos are, linked to, what do they call it again? The lot number and the packaging day. And
so someone can actually go and get that product if they can. Yeah.
You can a lot of people use websites, aggregators, to go on and say, okay, well, I'm going to go to this website and I'm going to type in what I want. Okay, well, this dispensary is 10 kilometers away. So you can call them, say, hey, do you have this lot number of this particular strain?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do. Or, oh, no, that one's already sold out. We have a new one. Now the consumer at least can make an educated decision on whether they want to go, right? And it's like, okay, well, it's not the same, but I'll maybe still take a chance, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's cool because it gives them that access to what they're actually looking at, which not a lot of companies are doing themselves. So you're doing that for them.
So even if you don't agree with our review, right? Because like we were saying earlier, can't remember if it was off camera or on camera, but we might post a review and you might feel completely different about it. But I think the words that we use and the way we articulate the review, it at least gives you enough tools to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And to say, that's not for me. I'm not going to enjoy that. Right.
Yeah. Which is a big thing, it gives value to the review.
Yeah. And you smoke weed for enjoyment, not to be bitter and to complain. Right. And it's like, it is disappointing when you spend some money on it, whether it's a lot of money or a little bit of money, and it's not exactly what you want. Right?
Of course, and you can't, there's no returns. You smoke it, or you hit up my boy Grow and Share and try to swap it.
And that's one of the things you bring up a great point. Like back to this OCS thing, right? And their marketing thing today with the mock setup or whatever, right? Like to educate consumers or whatever on toxins and all this stuff. One of the biggest challenges I think that turns people away is the return frickin'.
Yeah.
If I have a problem with alcohol, I just bring it back. If I have a problem with a banana or cereal, I'm not contacting General Mills.
No.
And a lot of dispensaries, whether it's because they're bad dispensaries or because they have a hard time getting the refund from the LP, or the LP just doesn't respond to the consumer after many attempts, right? I think that is the turnoff. You want to get people to start buying your weed, well, fix that problem. Make it so that there's the OCS, everybody knows they make a lot of money. What if they refunded the consumer,
Yeah.
And then they dealt with the LP.
Yeah.
They have that power.
And they would have the authority to actually collect.
And that would give consumer confidence, right? More than telling me I'm smoking toxic weed.
Yeah.
Telling me I'm an idiot, basically, right?
Literally. So what currently is your favorite way to consume?
I smoke hash, and I don't smoke cigarettes at all, but I smoke bots, right? So I'll be sitting around, like let's say I go on a flight for vacation, right? Can't smoke cigarettes. I don't vape. I don't do any of that stuff. So yeah, I'll just get to the point where I'm clenching my teeth and I start to get the nick kind of cravings.
Yeah.
but I don't ever smoke cigarettes like this. Even when I spark it up, I don't actually inhale that first puff. But yeah, I enjoy smoking hash. I think that's another thing to go to, you know, the neurodivergent thing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's the nicotine, obviously, is a stimulant too, right? So that's if there was one thing about my life I could change, it would probably be that. And
have you ever tried to do the like the hash kettles?
Honestly, it has nothing to do with the format. It's the fact that nicotine is so addictive, right?
Yeah.
So when we go out to parties, like I don't carry a bottle around with me. Like I used to when we would rave, right?
Yeah.
And people would be like, "You're standing up smoking bots," and I'd be serving it right off my nail, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, we'll go out, you know, whatever. I don't need to. I'll smoke just weed if I have to smoke anything. But yeah, I think it's more or less just like keeping yourself busy. Like when people try to quit smoking, yeah, it's more or less keeping yourself busy, keeping your mind occupied versus, you know, the nicotine craving coming in all the time.
For sure. But hash is a night. Like I love hash myself. Obviously, it's not the number one way I consume, but it's, you know, everyone loves it.
Well, where I grew up,
old school.
Exactly. I grew up in Cambridge, and there was a lot of biker influence, let's say, around there, right?
Yep.
And what are bikers known for? A lot of bikers are known for hash, right? So naturally, there was a lot of hash in Cambridge, and the hash there was way better than any of the weed back in the day. Sure, you had small pockets of people that were growing some good weed. Like we had this gentleman named Rambo, we call him, an older guy, and then there was the guy I mentioned earlier, my friend's dad, who would buy good weed, right? But anybody we knew, they didn't have anything good. The hash was something that was accessible pretty much to everybody in Cambridge. So,
got you.
And I understand hash is it's a niche market, in more even so than hash rosin or the newer hashes, right? Like we could refer to this as old school hash versus new school hash, right?
Yeah. Well, most people I know are just on to the rosin and stuff like that. It's more of the old school, the old heads that are smoking the old school hash. But like I said, I love it myself. I love doing like the hash kettles, rolling up long snakes and just setting one out and just fucking.
It's the smell and the taste I find most people enjoy, right? Like people come over and they smell the hash. They're like, wow, I love the smell of hash, right? And even back in the day, that was the people who even smoke weed. They would always comment on how they love the smell of hash, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's a different buzz too.
100% it's a different buzz. It's more in the body versus like I find with weed, if I smoke a joint, I'll be like air guitar and just, you know, I'll be having a great time. Whereas when smoking hash, I'm kind of just like
mellows you out.
It takes the edge off. It mellows me out. Like I love smoking hash, playing video games too, because you know, like some games are more like, for instance, we talked about, sir, you guys don't play games much, but Tarkov, look it up.
Oh, I know Tarkov.
Okay, that game. It's like getting jacked out of the Matrix when you get killed, you know what I mean? Because it's so immersive, and I find doing that and smoking hash or smoking some weed, that's my pastime, right?
Yeah,
you know?
it just goes so well together, eh?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Gets you in the zone.
Yeah, so I would say even more like weed is maybe more of like a Mario thing, you know what I mean? Or you're playing Mario Kart with your friends, you know, smoking joints, right? Where, yeah, Tarkov is maybe more of that, smoke some hash and go chill out and try not to get killed.
Man, nice. Any last shout outs, or you know what's next for you guys that you want to plug last?
Well, I'll save the shout outs for last. We do want to plug, we have a couple of events planned. So we talked about the Skank and Base already, right? And we're planning I guess you call it an anti-Valentine's Day party, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like for the single people, the people who maybe, you know, don't resonate with the whole Valentine's Day vibe. So Valentine's is on a Friday this year, 2025. So we're looking to do a Saturday event, right? And we're also looking to carry that momentum into a 420 event. 420 this year is very unique in the sense that 419 is a Saturday, right? And what we're looking to do is create this amazing event where we have a New Year's Eve type countdown, right? And we carry the audience into 420 and we celebrate that way, right?
Nice.
The people that we have working with us, there's some people that have some good connections to some great artists, and we're hoping to bring some, not even just for the audience, but for the brands too, right? Like part of our job is to bring value to our brands.
Yeah.
So we're looking to bring some artists that can put them on an international level, right? So people in Europe and people in South America, they're going to see these DJs and they're going to see these posts and they're going to see these parties with these companies. And that's going to resonate to people when they come to Canada, right? And when they come here, because Canada already got a lot of people on Reddit being like, I'm coming to Canada, what do I want to buy, right? And you got people recommending stuff. So we're trying to take that angle.
Nice.
Someone said this, you want to think like 100 years from now when they're talking about, how it used to be illegal and all that, similar to how we do with alcohol, right? You want that story to include certain things, right?
Yeah.
And you want to impact that story. And I already said before, I'm not that kind of person that like is out there as much as maybe Chino is, like Science and Cannabis. But yeah, I think we're trying to do something different, to kind of lead, just like the marijuana march, right? Like when I was a part of that, the mission was accessibility and the fact that visible minorities were being put in jail far more than people like myself, right? Who white men were just getting away, slap on the wrist, right?
Absolutely.
So, and it still happens to this day. We have a lot of people, non-violent crimes, who are in jail for weed, and weed's been legal for 6 years now. So, come on, let's go.
We got to fix that.
But back to the shout-outs. Listen, I want to shout out everybody who supports us. I don't want to go by names because I'm going to forget somebody, obviously, right? But the people should know. Like I said, we are very engaged with our community. Yeah. We talk to anybody. There's that little tab, requests, on Instagram. If you're not advertising in OnlyFans or some other gross shit like that, I'm going to read your message. I'm going to reply to you, right?
Yeah, man.
So
that's how we linked up. So
yeah, exactly. And I want to say, so I just want to say big up to all those people that reach out. They drop the nice messages, they drop the likes, to share our stuff. Yes, sir. So that's the reason why we're doing this, and that's the reason why we're able to do this. So absolutely, man. It means the world to us, means the world to, everyone, and it's the reason that we do this. 100%. Man, I appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It was super fun, man. We gassed out this place here, and absolutely. Oh yeah, thank you so much for the shirts, man. Hooked us up, gave us a shirt each for me and Sean here. So gonna rock them, show off. One more time, shout out to East End Buds for some fire to smoke. I love the packaging. I wish we could do that more, like in the legal market, right? But one day, not this far, but one day we'll be able to do something. I don't see why not. Like you're already in a store, doesn't allow children, so I don't think that appeals to children more than some of the stuff that's fair enough, with the fruitiness and the bright colors and the kitty names, some of that kitty slang and stuff like that. No, fair enough. All right, man. Well, thank you again. Pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. All right. To everyone watching, if you enjoy what we're doing, make sure to like, follow, and share on YouTube at High Passion Pod or on Instagram and Spotify at High Passion Podcast. If you want to keep up with our guests today, drop them a follow on Instagram at GanjaGlamCA, and make sure to check out the upcoming events, Skanking Base, at skankingbase.com. I want to give a huge shout out to Sean Sweeney at SeanCS10 for everything you do for the podcast and making this all happen. And to all our viewers, I hope you tune in next time, and until then, stay positive and stay passionate.